The Pell Grant is one of the most valuable forms of federal aid available to students pursuing higher education. Why? Well, because unlike loans, Pell Grants do not have to be paid back. However, there are a lot of very specific pieces to get there. So requirements for students to receive the Pell Grant and the process to receiving it as well. But grant money can significantly reduce what you and your student have to pay for their degree. So it's important to understand if your student's eligible for this, and if so, how to secure it. I'm going to share with you the ultimate guide to maximizing Pell Grant money in today's video, including Pell Grant requirements. Now make sure you hit subscribe because every week we have a new strategy for you and your family on how to work towards that debt-free degree. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System and Debt-Free Degree Lab, where we redefine paying for college to help families build strong financial futures and avoid decades of student loan debt. Now, we primarily focus on scholarship money, but financial aid is extremely important when it comes to working towards a debt-free degree. So we also make sure students maximize this source as well. Now, just a quick note, this is for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, not for international students. So what is the Pell Grant? The Pell Grant is for undergraduate students who demonstrate financial need. And the eligibility, in order to qualify, students have to be an undergraduate student enrolled in a degree or certificate program at an eligible institution. They must also be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and they must demonstrate financial need based on FAFSA. Secondly, it's need-based aid. So again, it's based on financial need. Now, this is determined based on a student's SAI, which stands for Student Aid Index, and that's a figure that students and families receive when they submit FAFSA, the Federal Form for Student Aid. The lower the SAI, the higher the chances and higher the amount of Pell Grant money. The amount awarded each year can vary based on federal funds available and other students that are applying. It's relative to the other financial situations of everyone else that's in the pool for the money. You can find charts out there that kind of give a rough estimate of what an SAI would be based on what a family's income is and what range they're in and how that converts to Pell Grant money. But we have an entire FAFSA playlist with way more detail where you can dive deeper into everything that we need to know about FAFSA. Anything that I mentioned, including that playlist, will be linked in the description below. Now, the other point I want to make is that there's no repayment required, which of course is the best part. So unlike student loans, Pell Grants do not have to be repaid. Now, there are some very rare exceptions, like a student dropping out after a payment was made. But as long as they're following the rules, then this is debt-free money that can be used towards tuition, fees, and other education-related expenses. So as you can imagine, this is a great source of money if your family can tap into it. Now let's talk about how to maximize Pell Grant money. So maximizing this money really requires us to understand the requirements as well as taking the steps in order to secure it. So first and foremost is completing FAFSA early. FAFSA, it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is required in order to tap into this money. It is not optional. Submitting it early as possible, closer to that October 1st opening date, can increase your students' chances of receiving it, as some states actually have it as a first come, first served basis. The next requirement is accurately reporting financial aid info. So any kind of error or anything that doesn't look right can cause delays in processing FAFSA, which can cause delays in receiving this money. So we want to make sure that we carefully and accurately report any kind of financial information on FAFSA. If there's a mistake, fix it immediately. Go and contact FAFSA and the schools and let them know right away. Now, if your family's financial situation has changed significantly since prior tax year, which is the numbers that are used to calculate FAFSA, then you may also be able to have an appeal, to submit an appeal with your student to the university to show, hey, that might have been our money 2 years ago, but that's not the case anymore. And that might be able to get your student the Pell Grant. We have a whole video all about financial aid appeals, so you can click that here or find the link in the description. The next requirement is very important for your student to maintain satisfactory academic progress, SAP. So this is where, in order to continue receiving federal Pell Grant money, then they must maintain a specific GPA and complete a certain number of courses. Falling below these standards will mean that they can lose their Pell Grant eligibility, which leads me to the next one, which is being full-time. So full-time can be considered even 4 classes. Ideally, we want to take 5 if our student can handle it, because tuition typically includes 5. Doing 4, we're paying for 5 classes and wasting them. But either way, minimum 4 classes in order to stay eligible for Pell Grant money. If enrolling part-time, then Pell Grant can be prorated. But again, we want to consider doing full-time classes so that your student can really maximize that money, especially if they're eligible. The next one is to maximize year-round Pell Grant money. So actually, if a student is full-time and then they decide to take summer classes, they can receive up to 150% of their Pell Grant funding. So that means your student could accelerate their graduation time and decrease what they end up paying for college in the end. And the last thing when it comes to maximizing Pell Grant is understanding the lifetime eligibility used, so LEU. So this is a criteria where they say, okay, you can use Pell Grant if you're eligible up to this many semesters. So Pell Grant is allowed up to 6 years or 12 semesters. So it's great that it's not capped immediately at 4 years, since we know a lot of students do tend to take more than just the typical 4 years for paying for college or for getting their degree. But keeping track of this is extremely important. I've seen students kind of take longer than they expected to get a degree and then be surprised when they no longer receive that Pell Grant money. So this is very important. Now, I do want to say, regardless of Pell Grant eligibility, there's always scholarship dollars out there. So if you're hearing this and your family is like, okay, we did not qualify for any of this Pell Grant money, then you especially need to be applying for scholarships. And even if your student is eligible for Pell Grant money, that is capped every single year and every single semester. So typically that student will need more money. So no matter which boat your family is in, we need to be applying for scholarships. So that said, I do have a free webinar. It's 1 hour long where I cover my 6 steps on how I got 6 figures in scholarships and how we've helped families secure over $13 million. So if you want to check that out, you can go to thescholarshipsystem.com/free training, or you can click on the video here. And again, everything will be linked in the description below as well. So comment below, did your family get the Pell Grant or did you miss it? Do you think that you will? Let me know in the comments, and I would love to know what your experience has been with the Pell Grant. All right, so that said, maximizing debt-free money is of course our #1 priority when it comes to helping families graduate debt-free, and the Pell Grant is a great one. It's based on just our family's financial situation and meeting the basic criteria, but it's not like your student has to write essays and compete for the money. Once they're eligible, they're eligible. So this is a great source. The only way to tap into it again is by submitting FAFSA, so we never want to skip FAFSA, and we could possibly appeal for more money from this source. So again, make sure that you're finding out if your student is eligible for Pell Grant and ensure that you and they can receive the maximum amount. All right, hit subscribe so that you are in for our future strategies for working towards a debt-free degree. I'll see you in the next video.